David Carradine is sitting on The Tonight Show when Johnny Carson asks the question everyone wants answered. What do you think about Bruce Lee? 20 million people watching live. What David pulls from his pocket in the next 30 seconds does not start a controversy. It ends one. And 3 months later, when Bruce Lee dies, those 30 seconds become the last public word on a rivalry that never existed. Burbank, California. March 15th, 1974, Friday night, 11:32 p.m., NBC Studios, Stage 1, The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson, the most watched late-night program in America. 20 million viewers every night, more than most prime-time shows. Johnny Carson sits behind his desk like a king on his throne. The man who makes careers and breaks them. The man whose approval means you have arrived. The man whose questions you cannot dodge because 20 million people are watching you try. The set is iconic. The curtain, the desk, the couch, the band playing during commercial breaks. Ed McMahon laughing at everything. The studio audience packed with 500 people who waited months for tickets. The energy of live television crackling in the air. David Carradine sits on the guest couch. Third segment. Already been out here for 12 minutes talking about Kung Fu. Season 3 just started. Ratings through the roof. 28 million viewers every week. David Carradine is one of the biggest stars in America right now. He's wearing a simple black suit. No tie. Top button open. His hair is longer than the network likes. He looks relaxed, but his hands are slightly tense. He knows what question is coming. Everyone knows what question is coming. It comes every interview, every magazine profile, every talk show appearance. The question about Bruce Lee. Johnny has been building to it, circling around it, talking about martial arts, talking about the philosophy of the show, talking about how David prepared for the role, setting the trap with his famous Midwestern charm. Now he springs it. Johnny leans forward, that twinkle in his eye. The audience feels the shift. They know something good is coming. So David, I have to ask, and I think our audience wants to know. He pauses. Timing perfect. 30 years of live television. Bruce Lee, the martial arts legend. He wanted this role. He created the concept. You got it instead. Now he is the biggest action star in Hong Kong. You are the biggest martial arts star in America. Another pause. Have you two ever talked about it? The studio goes quiet. 500 people holding their breath. 20 million more at home leaning toward their televisions. This is what they tuned in for. This is the moment. David does not answer immediately. He looks down at his hands. The silence stretches. 1 second, 2, 3. In live television, 3 seconds of silence feels like an hour. Johnny waits. He is a master of the pause, knows when to push and when to let the moment breathe. David looks up. His expression is unreadable. Johnny, can I show you something? Johnny's eyebrows rise. This is not the expected response. Guests usually deflect, make a joke, change the subject. They do not offer to show things. Of course. David reaches into his inside jacket pocket, pulls out a piece of paper, folded carefully, worn at the edges like it has been handled many times. The audience murmurs. The camera zooms in on the paper. 20 million people watching a folded piece of paper in David Carradine's hand. What is that? David unfolds it slowly, deliberately. This is a letter. Bruce Lee wrote it to me. 6 months ago. I have carried it with me every day since. The studio is absolutely silent now. You could hear a pin drop. Johnny Carson looks genuinely surprised. This does not happen often. He has interviewed thousands of people. He thought he knew where this was going. He was wrong. Bruce Lee wrote to you. Yes. What does it say? David looks at Johnny, then at the audience, then directly into camera 1, directly at 20 million Americans watching at home. May I read it? Johnny nods. Please. David takes a breath. looks down at the letter. When he speaks, his voice is different, quieter, more careful. Reading someone else's words. David. He pauses. We have never met, but we are connected. The studio made their choice, and you got the role. Some people want me to hate you for this. Some people want us to be enemies, to fight publicly, to give the newspapers their story. David's voice catches slightly. But I do not hate you. I cannot hate you. You did not make the decision. You only accepted what was offered. Any actor would have done the same. The audience is frozen. No coughing, no rustling, no movement. David continues reading. You and I are walking the same path from different directions. You are showing America what the East has to offer. I am showing the East what the West can learn. We are both bridges. We are both teachers. We are both trying to open doors that have been closed for too long. David's hand trembles slightly. He steadies it. I watch your show when I can. You move differently than I would. Your philosophy is different than mine. But you are sincere. I can see that. You believe in what you are teaching, even if you learned it from books instead of masters. He pauses, takes a breath. Do not let anyone tell you that you stole something from me. You cannot steal what was never given. The studio never offered me the role. They only let me audition so they could say they considered a Chinese actor. The decision was made before I walked in the room. Johnny Carson's expression has changed. The showman mask has slipped. He looks moved. Actually moved. This does not happen often. David reads the final lines. Keep doing what you are doing. Keep opening doors. Keep building bridges. Someday we will meet, and I will shake your hand, and thank you for carrying this forward. Until then, respect and peace. Bruce Lee. David folds the letter, carefully, puts it back in his pocket, over his heart. The studio is silent for 5 full seconds, an eternity on live television. Then Johnny speaks, his voice rougher than usual. David, that is not what I expected. David nods. No one expects it. Everyone wants us to be rivals, enemies, 2 men fighting over the same prize. It makes a better story. But that is not the truth. He looks at Johnny directly. The truth is, Bruce Lee is one of the most generous people I have never met. He could have destroyed me publicly, could have called me a fraud, could have turned the entire martial arts community against me. He had every right. David shakes his head. Instead, he wrote me this letter, told me we are on the same team, told me to keep going, told me not to feel guilty for something I did not do. Johnny leans back, processing. Have you written back? Yes, 3 times. We have been corresponding for 6 months. He invites me to Hong Kong every letter, says he wants to train together, wants to show me real kung fu, says he can teach me in a week what would take years anywhere else. Johnny asks the obvious question. Are you going to go? David smiles. Sadly, I was supposed to go next month. April. The show goes on hiatus. I have 3 weeks free. Bruce arranged everything, said he would pick me up at the airport himself. He pauses. I am counting the days. The audience applauds. The tension breaks. Johnny smiles and moves to the next topic. The interview continues for another 10 minutes. Lighter subjects. Funny stories from the set. The usual talk, show rhythm restored. But everyone remembers the letter. Everyone remembers David Carradine reading Bruce Lee's words on live television. Everyone remembers the rivalry that was not a rivalry, the enemies who were friends, the stolen role that was never stolen. The interview airs. 20 million people see it. The next morning, newspapers run stories about it. Bruce Lee and David Carradine secret friends. The narrative shifts. The controversy fades. For the first time, the public sees them as allies instead of opponents. 3 months later, July 20th, 1974. David Carradine is packing for Hong Kong. Flight leaves in 4 days. Suitcase open on the bed. He is deciding what to bring, what gift to give Bruce, what questions to ask, what techniques to learn. The phone rings. He answers. The voice on the other end tells him Bruce Lee collapsed. Bruce Lee died. Bruce Lee is gone. David sits on the bed, next to the open suitcase, the ticket to Hong Kong on the nightstand. He never makes that flight. He never meets Bruce Lee. He never shakes the hand that wrote that letter. The trip that was supposed to happen in 4 days becomes a trip that never happens. The meeting that was supposed to change everything becomes a meeting that exists only in imagination. David pulls the letter from his wallet, reads it again, for the 100th time, the words blurring through tears. Someday we will meet, and I will shake your hand. Someday never came. A week later, David gets a package from Hong Kong. Linda Lee sent it, Bruce's wife. Inside is a note and a photograph. The note says, Bruce talked about David often, said he was excited to meet him, said he had been practicing some moves specifically to show David, said he considered David a friend, even though they never met face to face. The photograph is Bruce Lee standing in his Hong Kong home, holding up a copy of TV Guide with David Carradine on the cover, smiling, giving a thumbs up. On the back, Bruce had written a message in his own hand. My American brother. See you soon. Bruce. David frames that photograph, keeps it on his desk for the rest of his life. Every interview after Bruce's death, he tells the story, shows the letter, reads the words. When journalists ask about the rivalry, he corrects them. There was no rivalry. There was only respect. There was only connection. There was only 2 men walking the same path from different directions who never got to meet in the middle. Years later, David would say, Bruce Lee taught him the most important lesson of his career. Not about fighting, not about philosophy, about grace. Bruce Lee could have been bitter, could have been angry, could have spent his energy destroying the man who got his role. Instead, he spent it building a bridge, reaching out, choosing connection over conflict. That is what the letter taught David, that your enemy is only your enemy if you choose to make them one, that the person who got what you deserved might be the person who needs your support most, that building someone up costs nothing and creates everything. Johnny Carson interviewed thousands of people over 30 years. When asked about the most memorable moments, he would mention a few. The time Ed Ames threw the tomahawk, the time Tiny Tim got married, the time the bird landed on his head, and the time David Carradine read Bruce Lee's letter. He would say that was the moment he learned something about fame, that the biggest stars are not the ones who climb over others. The biggest stars are the ones who reach back and pull others up. Bruce Lee never got to be Kwai Chang Caine on American television, but his letter lives forever. Read on live television to 20 million people, proving that the man who lost the role was bigger than the role itself. Who in your life is waiting for your letter? Who have you been told to hate but never actually met? What bridge could you build with 30 seconds of honesty? David Carradine carried that letter until the day he died. 35 more years, through ups and downs, through fame and obscurity, through everything, because some words are worth carrying, because some bridges outlast the people who build them, because sometimes the person who should be your enemy becomes your teacher, and you never even have to meet them to learn the lesson. That is what Bruce Lee gave David Carradine. Not a fight, not a rivalry, not a controversy, a letter, and 30 seconds on The Tonight Show that changed how 20 million people thought about both of them forever.